Let me speak to you today of a truth as old as the Parthenon and as current as your latest podcast. An idea that sprang from the dusty streets of Athens and echoes through the shelves of self-help books lining modern bookstores. I speak of the ancient art of Socratic self-inquiry, the relentless questioning of one's own soul, and how it squares against the sleek and smiling industry of modern self-improvement. In the days when the world was young and the soul was seen as a treasure map, there walked a man named Socrates, unwashed and unimpressed, who dared to claim the unexamined life is not worth living. He asked not how to succeed, but how to be good. He measured wealth not in coin, but in clarity. And he knew, as you must know, that to discover your purpose, you must first uncover your own ignorance. Now, contrast this with today's world. Our minds are plugged into algorithms, our goals set by vision boards, our self-worth measured in likes and followers. The modern self-help movement offers steps 7, 10, or 12 towards success, fame, or inner peace. But let me warn you, formulas are seductive and shallow. The soul does not rise in stepwise fashion. It erupts through the cracks of brutal honesty, the kind of honesty Socrates lived and died for. Socrates did not offer answers, he offered questions, questions that pierced the ego and dismantled pretense. When a young man asked how to live a good life, Socrates asked in return, what is the good? When a politician claimed to know virtue, Socrates asked what virtue was, and it was not cruelty but courage that guided his interrogations. He knew that purpose is not found in external accomplishment, but in internal coherence. Compare this to modern man who turns to books with titles like Think and Grow Rich, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, or Atomic Habits, each offering a blueprint for happiness or success. These works, useful though they may be, often treat the soul like a machine to be tuned rather than a mystery to be unveiled. They ask, how can I get more, rather than, why do I want more in the first place? They offer improvement, but not enlightenment. The difference is subtle, but profound. Socratic inquiry does not start with the assumption that you know what you're doing. It begins with the awareness that you may not. He taught that wisdom is admitting your ignorance, not masking it with motivational quotes. That is why the Oracle of Delphi called him the wisest man in Athens, because he knew that he knew nothing. Let us look at how this plays out in real life. Take the example of Steve Jobs, a modern sage cloaked in denim and black turtlenecks. Jobs was not a man of convenience or conformity. He dropped out of college, studied calligraphy, took spiritual retreats in India, and asked constantly not how to succeed, but how to do meaningful work. His self-inquiry shaped the world, and yet he never wrote a self-help book. He lived one. Or look to Viktor Frankl, who endured the concentration camps of Nazi Germany and emerged with a stunning insight that man's deepest drive is not pleasure, but purpose. In man's search for meaning, he echoes Socrates, not by offering solutions, but by inviting introspection. Frankl wrote that those who found meaning in suffering could endure anything. Socrates would have nodded in agreement. Socratic self-inquiry is not safe. It threatens the comfortable. It confronts the cowardly. It may demand that you leave a job, a belief, or even a relationship, not because they are wrong, but because they are misaligned with your truth. The modern self-help movement too often tries to soothe when what we need is to be shaken. To find your purpose, do not begin with goals. Begin with questions. What do I fear? What am I avoiding? What assumptions do I hold that no longer serve me? What would I do if no one could see or judge me? These are not casual questions. They are soul questions. They are the questions that lead not to comfort, but to clarity. Look to literature. In Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov, the character Ivan grapples with the existence of evil and the silence of God. He does not hide from the contradiction, he inhabits it. In that struggle, we see that meaning is not always found in peace, but in persistence. In Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark torments himself with questions of purpose, fate, and truth. His tragedy was not that he questioned too much, but that he delayed in acting on what he discovered. Let that not be your fate. So how do you apply this ancient method today, practically and powerfully? First, cultivate solitude. Not silence filled with scrolling, but genuine solitude, the kind where your thoughts rise unfiltered and uncomfortable. Socrates wandered the agora, but he also stood motionless in contemplation for hours. You must make space for stillness. Second, journal with rigor. Do not write to impress, write to expose. Ask the hard questions. Return to them, see how your answers evolve. This is not documentation, it is dialogue with your highest self. Third, converse with integrity. Find those who challenge you, not flatter you. Build your own agora, whether online or in person. Let your ideas be tested in the fire of honest discourse. Fourth, practice detachment. Socrates faced death not with panic, but peace. Because he had already died to his ego long before his trial, he knew his purpose was not to win, but to witness to the truth he found within. When you no longer fear losing, you begin to truly live. And finally, act on what you know. Self-inquiry that ends in thought is indulgence. Self-inquiry that leads to action is transformation. Do not be the man who climbs the mountain of wisdom only to build a tent at the summit. Plant your flag. Live your truth. In the end, ancient wisdom and modern thinking are not enemies. They are partners in the same great task, to wake us up from the slumber of conformity and ignite the fire of conscious living. Socrates showed us that purpose is not found, it is forged, one question at a time. And if you would live greatly, then do not seek quick fixes or easy answers. Seek the question that burns and dare to answer it with your life. And as you live your answer, understand this: the path will not always be clear, nor will it be comfortable. It was not comfortable for Socrates to stand before his accusers and choose hemlock over hypocrisy. It was not comfortable for Galileo to turn his telescope to the heavens and proclaim a truth that shook the church. It was not comfortable for Nelson Mandela to spend 27 years in prison, but in that darkness he questioned deeply, and from it emerged, not with bitterness, but with a vision for unity that changed a nation. Let me tell you plainly, purpose is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the only antidote to despair, the only shield against the creeping corrosion of mediocrity. Without it, a man may gain the whole world and lose his own soul. With it, he may stand naked, poor, ridiculed, and yet be richer than kings, freer than emperors. You must learn to love the question. You must befriend the uncertainty. The old philosophers did not ask to be understood. They asked to understand. In that spirit, I tell you, seek not affirmation, but revelation. Seek not applause, but alignment. And remember, the most dangerous man is not the one who has all the answers, but the one who knows how to ask the right question. Let us revisit the contrast once more, not to condemn modern methods, but to purify them. The self-help world is not without merit. It offers you tools, affirmations, visualization, systems of discipline, but tools in the hands of a confused man build nothing. You must first become the architect of your life, and that begins with the blueprint of who you are. And no one draws that blueprint for you. You must dig it out from the granite of your own psyche, chip by chip, stroke by stroke. So wake up each day not merely to achieve, but to align. Let your victories be rooted in vision. Let your goals spring from truth. And do not be afraid to challenge your deepest assumptions. If your purpose is borrowed, it will crumble. If it is inherited, question it. If it is sold to you, return it. Only that which you discover through your own honest inquiry will stand the trials of life. Be bold. Be ruthless in your introspection. Ask the question that terrifies you. Ask what matters most. Ask where you have compromised. Ask what your soul has been whispering while the world screamed, and then act. Act with the calm certainty of a man who knows he has interrogated his soul and found it ready. Remember the words of Rainer Maria Rilke. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. He knew, as Socrates did, that the journey to meaning is not a sprint, but a spiral, returning, deepening, unfolding. If you would live with meaning, do not look for a lighthouse to guide you. Become the fire yourself. And when others see your light, they will ask where it came from. Tell them it came not from a book, not from a guru, but from a question I dared to ask and a life I dared to live in pursuit of its answer. So rise today, not to follow a path, but to create one. Carve it through the wilderness of self-doubt and the silence of reflection. Let your compass be the question. Let your feet be your commitment. And let your destination be not comfort, not success, but truth. And when you arrive at that truth, speak it, live it, let it cost you something. For in that cost, you will find the priceless treasure of a life truly examined and a purpose truly fulfilled. And when you pay that cost, whether in time, in friends who no longer understand you, or in comforts willingly abandoned, you will find what all the great souls before you discovered, that purpose is not pleasure, it is participation in something greater than yourself. It is communion with truth. It is alignment with your inner law, the one no man writes for you, but which pulses in your blood like a sacred rhythm. This is why the old masters did not chase applause. Marcus Aurelius wrote in the silence of his own reflection, never intending his meditations to be read by others. He was speaking to himself. He was keeping his soul accountable. Today we post our thoughts for approval. Marcus wrote to rise above his own weakness. That is the difference. One seeks validation, the other seeks virtue. Virtue. That's the forgotten word in modern talk of meaning. Yet for Plato, for Aristotle, for Epictetus, the good life was the virtuous life, not the successful life, not the famous life, the virtuous life. A life lived in harmony with your deepest values, where your thoughts, your speech, and your actions form a single straight line. That is integrity. And integrity is the foundation of purpose. So if you feel lost, confused, scattered, return to virtue. Ask, am I honest? Am I courageous? Am I disciplined? Am I kind? These are not outdated ideals. They are the timeless coordinates of a meaningful life. The Stoics taught that you may not control the outcome, but you control your character. And it is your character that shapes your destiny. Look at history's giants. Did Martin Luther King Jr. live a life of ease? No. He lived a life of meaning. His question was not, how can I get more, but what is my responsibility in the face of injustice? That is the Socratic spirit in action, questioning not for cleverness, but for conscience. Did Mother Teresa ask, how can I go viral? No, she asked, how can I serve? She sought no platform, only purpose, and through that humble purpose, she shook the world. Did Leonardo da Vinci ask, how can I retire early? No, he asked, why does the water swirl? How do birds fly? What makes man divine? And in his obsessive inquiry, he found purpose, not in arrival, but in exploration. If you would follow in the footsteps of such men and women, then begin as they did, with the question. Ask not what the world owes you. Ask what you owe to the voice within you, the one that whispers between your moments of silence, the one that will not be bribed by comfort or convenience. Purpose is not found in a moment of inspiration. It is revealed over years of deliberate inquiry, tested by fire and proven in action. And when you find it, it will not shout. It will not dazzle. It will come quietly, like the rising sun, warming your every step with the knowledge that you are exactly where you are meant to be. But mark this well. Once you find it, you must protect it. The world will try to seduce you back into distraction. It will offer you applause for compromise. It will tempt you to forget the questions that gave you power in the first place. Resist it. Be vigilant. Guard your soul like a flame in the wind and pass it on. Teach others not what to think, but how to think. Teach them not what to follow, but how to question. Raise up generations of questioners, seekers, rebels of conscience. In doing so, you become a link in the golden chain of wisdom stretching from Socrates to the sages yet unborn. This is the work. This is the great calling, not just to live, but to live awake. Not just to succeed, but to matter, and not just to question, but to question until the truth stands naked before you, demanding your allegiance. Will you have the courage to follow it? That is the final question. And the rest of your life, every choice, every step, every sacrifice will be your answer. And if your answer is yes, if you choose to live not by accident, but by design, not by habit, but by principle, then you enter a rare fellowship. You walk among those few souls who would rather be right with their conscience than popular with the crowd. You stand with those who have chosen clarity over comfort, discipline over distraction, and truth over tradition. You will find, as every great thinker and doer has found, that this path does not lead to a life of ease, but it does lead to a life of greatness. Great not in applause, but in depth. Great not in recognition, but in resonance. Your days may pass without headlines, but each one will ring with the quiet thunder of alignment. And that, my friend, is worth more than all the gold of empires. Do not be deceived by the glitter of shallow success. Many have climbed the ladder of ambition only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Many have chased titles and trophies only to realize their souls had grown silent. You must not be among them. You must build your ladder on the firm foundation of inquiry, honest, ruthless, courageous inquiry. That is your compass. That is your shield. When the storms of doubt howl around you, it is the truth you discovered through self-inquiry that will hold you steady. When the world shifts its values like sand, it is your own internal philosophy, carved from the bedrock of questions asked in solitude, that will become your rock. This is why the ancients endured. Their empires may have crumbled, their statues eroded, their scrolls faded, but their questions remain. Their ideas live on, not because they handed out answers, but because they demanded we look inward, because they taught us that the most important journey is the one we take into the self. You have the same tools they had, a mind, a conscience, and a choice. Use them. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for the perfect moment. The moment is now. The permission is your own. Begin with the question and let that question open you like a door. And know this, when you commit to the path of purposeful inquiry, life begins to respond. Opportunities find you. People are drawn to you. Why? Because you have become magnetic, not with charm, but with conviction. You shine, not with polish, but with principle. Let your life be your philosophy. Let your daily choices speak the answers you find. Let your relationships, your work, your art, your words, all of them form a single message to the world that you have chosen to live deliberately, consciously, and with meaning. And when you reach the end, and you will, as all men must, you will look back not with regret, but with reverence. For you will have lived a life not dictated by trend, nor ruled by fear, but led by inquiry and shaped by truth. That, above all, is what the philosophers got right, and that, above all, is what you must remember. The unexamined life may seem easier, but only the examined life is truly yours. So ask, seek, knock, and when the door opens, walk through it, with fire in your eyes and purpose in your heart, for you are not here to drift, you are here to discover, to define, to declare, and to live a life that burns so brightly with meaning that others Seeing your light, find their own courage to seek. Now go and begin. And as you begin, truly begin, do not rush. Purpose is not a race to be won, but a reality to be revealed. The oak does not grow by tearing at its roots. It rises slowly, steadily, because it is anchored deep. You too must root yourself in patient persistence. Let your life unfold like a great book, each chapter earned, each line written with intention. Do not fear the slow moments, the quiet ones, the times when nothing seems to move. That is where the real work happens, beneath the surface, beyond the eyes of others. There in the private wrestling of thought, in the silent honesty of reflection, your direction becomes clear. That is sacred ground. Respect it. For every hero who stood in the light, there was a long night of doubt. Before Moses parted seas, he wandered in the wilderness. Before Buddha found enlightenment, he sat in silence under the Bodhi tree, refusing to move until the truth revealed itself. Before Helen Keller could speak to the world, she lived locked in darkness and silence, guided only by the faith of one teacher who refused to quit. And so must you endure your own silence. So must you face your own darkness, not with fear, but with faith, that what lies within you is greater than what stands against you. Purpose is not bestowed, it is born. Born of fire, forged in reflection, strengthened by struggle. You will be tempted to doubt yourself. The world will tempt you to conform, to numb, to forget the question that stirs your soul. It will offer you comfort in exchange for your curiosity, applause in place of your authenticity. But remember this, those who give up their question lose their reason to rise. So rise each day with your question still burning. Let it guide your work, your choices, your conversations. Let it be your filter. Does this decision bring me closer to my truth or farther from it? Let it be your fuel. When others quit, your purpose will carry you forward. You are not here to live someone else's script. You are here to write your own. The ink is your integrity, the pen is your will, and the page, the page is your life itself. Make it count, make it honest, make it worthy of the question that started it all. And one day, perhaps many years from now, when another seeker looks at your life and wonders how you found your way, you will not hand them a roadmap. You will not give them your answer. You will look them in the eye and ask them what Socrates would have asked. What do you believe is the good life? And you will watch as their journey begins. And in that moment, you will understand what legacy truly means. Not statues, not wealth, not fame, but the courage to ask the right question and the strength to live its answers so fully that others feel compelled to do the same. That is purpose. That is power. That is the examined life. And when you have lived that examined life, you will see the truth that all the wise ones saw, that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived with depth, devotion, and daring. The modern world teaches us to hack, to shortcut, to optimize, but the soul does not respond to shortcuts. It responds to sincerity. And sincerity requires that you show up fully, face what is difficult, and engage the question of your purpose, not once, but daily, in every word, in every act, in every moment. And the philosophers who shaped civilization, Pythagoras, Confucius, Seneca, Aquinas, Descartes, they were not great because they knew all things. They were great because they dared to ask what life is for. And even when the answers came wrapped in contradiction or pain, they kept asking. That relentless devotion to truth became their compass, their torch. And so too must it become yours. It is easy to follow trends. It is easy to consume opinions. But it is noble to stand apart and listen for the quiet wisdom rising from within. That is the divine signal beneath the static of the world. And when you learn to hear it, when you silence the noise of fear and awaken the voice of principle, you become unstoppable. not because you have all the answers, but because you walk with unwavering clarity. That clarity does not shout, it does not swagger, it does not impress with glitter. It humbles you, it sharpens you, it makes you unshakable. And your life is built on inquiry, not imitation. You walk like a man who has faced the fires of uncertainty and emerged forged, not polished, but purified. You no longer chase meaning like a mirage. You carry it in your own chest, and everything you do reflects it. And here's the secret that the philosophers and prophets and poets all knew. Purpose is not one great act. It is not a single breakthrough. It is the sum of 1,000 small, honest decisions. It is found in the way you rise in the morning, in how you speak to the stranger, in the courage you show when no one is watching. It is built like a temple, stone by stone, each one placed by your own hand. And so I leave you now with this charge, not to find your purpose like a buried treasure, but to build it like a cathedral, with reverence, with strength, with vision. Do not ask the world what it wants from you. Ask what truth requires of you, and live that answer with such burning honesty that the whole world takes notice, not of your success, but of your integrity. For in the end, when your bones are dust and your name is but a whisper, let it be said, not that you were brilliant or busy or popular, but that you were a seeker of truth, a doer of good, and a builder of purpose, that you lived the question until the question became your life, that you examined, that you dared, that you mattered. Now go, in essence. And as you go, understand this truth. The journey will not always be full of triumphs. There will be days when the road ahead is hidden in fog, when the weight of doubt presses heavy on your shoulders, when the voice inside you goes quiet. But that is not the time to turn back. That is the time to go deeper. Because the silence of your soul is not absence, it is invitation. It is the space where transformation happens. As the seed must be buried in darkness before it becomes a tree, so must your purpose be refined in the quiet places where no one claps and no spotlight shines. These moments, my friend, are sacred. The world teaches you to move fast, to stay busy, to produce. But meaning is not manufactured in haste. It is cultivated in stillness. Lao Tzu taught that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Do not fear stillness. It is not stagnation, it is depth. It is in the stillness that your convictions are tested and your vision becomes sharp. And when you reemerge, when your feet meet the path again, you will walk with something far greater than ambition. You will walk with purpose shaped by fire, by faith, and by fidelity to your highest values. Let others chase applause. Let others count followers. You count the moments you stayed true. Count the times you spoke when silence was easier. Count the battles you fought for something that mattered, even if no one noticed. That is your measure. That is your power. When you meet others on this road, honor them, not for their achievements, but for their devotion to the search. Recognize the light in their eyes, the hunger in their heart. You will know them not by status, but by the still fire that burns behind their words. Walk with them, learn from them, and when you can, lead them. But never, never stop asking. The moment you stop questioning is the moment you start drifting. And a man who drifts loses the dignity of direction. Build your day around the questions that matter most. Not what can I get today, but who can I become? Not how can I win today, but how can I align? For victory without alignment is empty, but a quiet day lived in integrity is victory indeed. Let every room you enter be changed because you carried with you the energy of someone who knows why he's here. Let every conversation lift, because your words are spoken from a well that never runs dry, a well filled by the discipline of living in constant, courageous self-inquiry. And in the end, when the curtain falls and your life is remembered, not for the things you owned, but for the truth you lived, what will they say? They will say, he asked the right questions. He lived the answers with honor. He left behind not instructions, but inspiration. Let that be your legacy. Now rise. You have a question to live. Let your days be the answer. And when your days become your answer, when each morning is no longer a repetition of yesterday's habits, but a declaration of your deepest truth, then and only then will you begin to understand the ancient wisdom that carried civilizations forward, the sacred knowing that modern thinking so often forgets. You will see that meaning is not given, it is earned. Earned in the trenches of discipline, in the silence of meditation, in the courage to walk alone. Earned when you say no to what is easy and yes to what is right. Earned when you choose discomfort in the service of growth, when you choose principle over popularity, when you choose purpose over pleasure. That is the essence of the examined life. Do not measure your life in years. Measure it in clarity. Measure it in moments when you felt the pulse of purpose in your veins, when your thoughts were your own, when your actions sang in harmony with the truth beating in your chest. This, my friend, is the quiet revolution. The revolution of one man who refuses to live asleep. One woman who chooses to wake up to her calling. And when one awakens, many follow, not because they were told, but because they saw. They saw a life that was alive, a soul that refused to be silenced. You are the flame, not the kind that burns out, but the kind that lights others. Your question is your spark. Your answer is your torch. Carry it high, not to boast, but to illuminate. Walk boldly, not to be seen, but to lead the way. And in those final hours of your life, when your breath grows shallow and the world begins to fade, may you not be haunted by the question, what if I had lived my truth? No. Let your final thought be one of deep peace, the peace of a soul who answered the question, who lived it, who gave it to others. Let them say you were not ordinary. You were not swayed by trends or shackled by fear. You were a builder of purpose, a seeker of wisdom, a man or a woman who looked the eternal question square in the eye and said, yes, I will live for what matters. That is your birthright. That is your responsibility. That is your destiny. And now the time has come. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. The world does not need more noise. It needs voices of depth. It does not need more followers. It needs leaders of soul. It does not need more movement. It needs men and women who are rooted in something eternal. Be that root. Be that voice. Be that one. The one who asked, the one who sought, the one who found, and then live the answer with fire. And remember this, for it is the great paradox of purpose. The deeper you go into yourself, the more you rise above yourself. For when you become anchored in truth, you begin to live not just for yourself, but for something far greater. You become a servant of meaning, a steward of light, a messenger of hope in a world that desperately needs direction. Do not think for a moment that your life is small. There is no such thing. A single man or woman living in alignment with purpose becomes a force of nature. History bends for such people. Civilizations awaken because of them. One soul committed to truth has more power than 1,000 lost in comfort. You must never underestimate what your example can become. Look at Viktor Frankl, just one man in the unspeakable horror of a concentration camp, and yet he chose to search for meaning in suffering. His dignity, even in chains, ignited a fire in millions of hearts through his words, his courage, his philosophy. That is the power of a life aligned with purpose. Look at Harriet Tubman. She was not born with position, wealth, or privilege. But she heard the call. She did not ignore the question burning in her soul. What is my duty to those still in chains? And by answering it not once, but dozens of times, she altered the course of freedom itself. You do not need more time. You need more conviction. You do not need a better past. You need a clearer reason to rise today. And you will find that reason when you ask the ancient question with the intensity of a modern mind, what does it mean to live a life that matters? Ask it each morning before the world's noise floods in. Ask it when no one is watching. Ask it when you're afraid, when you're tired, when you're tempted to compromise. That question is not your burden, it is your blessing. It will sharpen you, it will refine you, it will lead you day by day into the fullness of who you were born to be. Do not let it go. Grip it like a sword. Hold it like a lantern. Let it lead you into the darkness so that others might find their way by your light. Because purpose is not just a private treasure, it is a public gift. When you live with intention, you give others permission to do the same. You create ripples across families, communities, generations. And one day, perhaps long after you are gone, someone will pick up a book, hear a story, or walk a path you once cleared, and something in them will awaken. They will feel it. They will know. And in that moment, your life will speak once more when no one cheered you on. Reverence for the path you carved through the wilderness of distraction and fear. That path is yours. It is sacred. You walked it with blood and belief. The world will try to make you forget. It will dangle shiny distractions. It will whisper seductive lies, that pleasure is purpose, that comfort is calling, that applause is affirmation. But the wise, the truly wise, know better. They remember what Marcus Aurelius taught. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. They remember what Emerson declared. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. You must build this remembering into your days, etch it into your habits, guard it like a lion, for the fire of purpose once lit must be fed, not with fantasy, but with fierce daily action. Feed it with reflection, feed it with service, feed it with discipline, and above all, feed it with truth. Not the kind of truth that flatters, not the kind that fits the trend, but the kind that convicts you, the kind that strips away illusion and leaves you standing naked but whole before your highest self. That truth is hard. That truth is holy. That truth will remake your life. And in the making, you will become what every philosopher, every prophet, every poet hoped we might become. Free, not in the shallow sense of doing whatever you please, but in the deeper sense of doing what you must. Free, not from responsibility, but into it. Free to live, not by default, but by design. That is what the ancients understood. That is what modern minds have often lost. Freedom is not the absence of limits. It is the presence of meaning. And meaning is born only in those who dare to ask, who dare to listen, and who dare, above all, to act. You must become that daring soul. Do not waste another year, another month, another moment living someone else's life. Tear up the script they handed you. Write your own, even if your hand trembles as you begin, especially if your hand trembles. For there is no guarantee in this world, none but this, that time will pass, the days will vanish, and your life, whatever it becomes, will have been written by your choices. So choose well, choose with fire, choose with honor. And when the final chapter is written, let it not be said that you lived quietly. Let it be said that you lived with meaning, that you lived examined, that you asked the question, and then became the answer. And what does it mean, truly, to become the answer? It means that your life speaks without needing to raise its voice, that your very presence becomes a message, clear, bold, unwavering. It means you no longer chase fulfillment as though it were somewhere far ahead of you, hiding in the next success, the next dollar, the next applause. Instead, fulfillment becomes the soil beneath your feet, the breath in your lungs, the rhythm of your days, because you have chosen to root yourself in what matters. You will know you are becoming the answer when the noise no longer pulls you off course, when setbacks no longer shake your foundation, but instead refine your fire. You will know it when people stop asking what you do and begin asking who you are, and you will be able to answer not with a title, but with truth. Who are you? You are the one who decided to live on purpose. You are the one who asked the hard questions, not to impress, but to transform. You are the one who carried the ancient wisdom into the modern world like a torch through the dark. You are the one who remembered that meaning is not found in comfort, but in contribution. Remembered that success is not measured by what you have, but by what you give. Remember that life is not a competition, but a calling. And because you remembered, others will too. Let them remember not the things you acquired, but the principles you lived by. Let them remember that when the world moved fast, you moved with purpose. When others chased the next thing, you stayed rooted in the eternal. Let them remember that you were not swayed by the winds of opinion, because you were anchored to something deeper. Your question, your truth, your mission. That is the life the ancient philosophers wrote about, not the life of external achievement alone, but of inner alignment. Socrates warned us not to live unexamined lives. Epictetus taught us that our power lies in how we respond, not in what happens to us. Confucius showed that virtue begins in the home, in the small actions, in the quiet disciplines. These were not outdated men, they were timeless. And you, by living with purpose, continue their work. Yes, you. You don't need to be famous. You don't need a platform. You only need a fire in your heart and the discipline to keep it alive. That fire will illuminate everything you touch, your family, your work, your legacy. And when you live that way, life does not pass you by. It flows through you with force, with meaning, with magic. So when the world tells you to move faster, slow down. When it tells you to follow, stand still. When it tells you to settle, rise higher. Ask again. Listen again. Choose again. Because the greatest tragedy is not failure. The greatest tragedy is a man who never knew why he lived. But that will not be you. You know now that the question is the gift, the pursuit is the path, and the answer, your answer is written not in theory, but in the way you live, day after sacred day. So go, stand tall, walk wisely, live loudly. Let your life be the answer the world has been waiting for. And as you walk that path with your chest lifted and your mind ablaze, know this. You are no longer a seeker lost in the fog. You are a guide lit from within, and the world, though it may not understand you at first, will feel your fire. It will sense the clarity in your step, the weight in your words, the stillness in your gaze. For there is a strength born of living your question that cannot be faked, cannot be bought, and cannot be broken. You are now a man or a woman of substance, and substance is rare. Substance does not shout, it does not sparkle, it does not beg to be seen. But when it enters a room, everything shifts. And so you must be prepared, for this kind of life will challenge you, not with the chaos of confusion, but with the discipline of direction. You will no longer have the excuse of not knowing. You will no longer have the luxury of blaming, because once you have asked the question and truly heard its call, your days become sacred, your time becomes precious, your presence becomes a responsibility. But oh, what a glorious responsibility it is. To rise each morning not out of habit, but from conviction. To speak not from opinion, but from wisdom. To build not just a career, but a calling. To love not out of convenience, but out of truth. This is what it means to live a life of meaning, not in theory, but in practice. Not in abstract, but in action. And if you ever feel alone, if you ever feel that this way of living has made you a stranger in a world chasing shadows, remember this: you walk with giants. You walk with the Stoics who chose virtue over ease. You walk with the mystics who chose insight over comfort. You walk with the reformers, the revolutionaries, the sages of every age, those who knew that a single life lived with principle is more powerful than 1,000 lived for approval. You walk in the lineage of purpose, and you too shall leave behind a legacy, not of things, but of transformation, a life that became light, a soul that became a signal, a story that became a standard for others to rise to. So rise now, rise not with haste, but with power. Rise not for applause, but for alignment. Rise because your life is not a question to be feared. It is a question to be lived. Live it boldly, bravely, unapologetically. And when the last word is spoken, when the final breath is drawn, may the world not mourn your passing, but celebrate that you were here, that you asked, that you answered, that you lived with meaning, that you were the answer. And let that be the truth carved into the stone of your memory, that you were not a spectator of life, but a participant in the grand design, that you did not float upon the surface of existence like driftwood upon a river, but instead you sank deep into the current of meaning and swam against it if you had to, with purpose in your arms and fire in your breath. You see, the great philosophers, those sages of sandaled feet and fire-forged minds, they did not live to entertain theories, they lived to embody them. They did not talk about courage, they chose it. They did not theorize about virtue, they practiced it daily when no one was watching. That is your charge now. And should you ever be tempted to return to a shallow life where convenience replaces character and popularity masquerades as truth, I urge you, pause, breathe, remember the path you walk, because once a soul has tasted purpose, anything less becomes unbearable. There will be those who mock your seriousness. There will be those who scoff at your discipline. Let them. They have not yet heard the call. But you, you are different now. You carry something ancient in your bones, something eternal in your gaze. You carry the weight of knowing that life is short, but meaning is vast, that time slips away, but purpose expands every moment you live with intention. Look around this world, filled with gadgets, distraction, noise. It is not more noise that it needs, it is more meaning. And that meaning will not come from institutions. It will not come from the marketplace. It will come from awakened individuals, men and women who dare to build lives so full of truth that others cannot help but listen. Become one of them. Speak less, but speak from depth. Move slower, but move from clarity. Dream bigger, but root your dreams in timeless principles. And above all, act, for the world is shaped not by those who know the path, but by those who walk it. And the moment you take even a single step in the direction of your truth, the heavens take notice. The ancient winds stir. The invisible hand begins to guide you. That is not poetic fluff. It is reality for those who have eyes to see it. The universe aligns for the soul aligned with itself. Doors open, resources appear, the right people cross your path, not by accident, but because purpose creates gravity. Live with that gravity. Let your days carry weight. Let your words ring with the sound of someone who means what they say and lives what they mean. And then, years from now, when the young ones come to you, uncertain, restless, hungry for guidance, do not hand them answers. Hand them questions. The same question you once asked. The same question that turned your life into a mission. And hand it to them like a torch. What does it mean to live a life that matters? And when they ask how you answered it, smile. Not with arrogance, but with humility. And say this, I didn't answer it in a moment. I answered it, and every morning I rose with resolve. I answered it in every choice I made with integrity. I answered it in the way I lived, the way I loved, the way I left the world better than I found it. And let them see in your eyes that this question, this sacred, ancient, eternal question, was not your burden. It was your blessing. It was your beacon. It was the very breath of your life. Now go on, walk your path, and let the world feel the answer in your every step. And if you ever find yourself weary on that path, when the nights are long and your footsteps feel heavy, remember this. Weariness is not the enemy of purpose. It is its companion. For only those who labor for something greater than themselves ever feel its weight, and only those who carry that weight are granted the reward of legacy. You will not always feel certain. There will be days when doubt whispers louder than destiny. There will be moments when the old life, the easy life, tries to seduce you back. But you must hold firm. You must return to your foundation, not the one built on sand, but on stone. And that stone is your why. The question you asked, the answer you now embody. Stand on it, build from it, rise by it. And remember, even the mountains must bow to the one who keeps climbing. Even the storm makes way for the soul that walks with conviction. You were not born to be aimless. You were not born to drift from task to task, trend to trend, lifetime to lifetime, as if you were nothing more than a feather on the wind. No, you were born with a compass in your spirit and a fire in your gut. You were born with the ability to choose. Choose truth, choose purpose, choose legacy. And when you do, life begins to respond. The right words come when you need them. The strength returns when you thought you had none. And the path, though never easy, becomes unmistakably clear, because a purpose-driven life is a guided life. It is not without storms, but it is never without direction. To wake up each morning, not to repeat, but to renew. Remind yourself of the question, recommit yourself to the answer, renew your discipline, your devotion, your decision to live for what matters most. And when you close your eyes at night, let it be with the peace of one who is no longer searching aimlessly, but journeying intentionally. That is your reward. Not applause, not fame, not even success in the eyes of the world, but something far greater, alignment, harmony, inner victory, the knowledge that your days were not wasted in trivial pursuits, but invested in eternal principles. This is how the greatest lives are lived, not by accident, but by alignment, not in a rush, but with resolve, not for show, but for substance. So I tell you once more, not as a command, but as a live your question. Become its answer. And let the trail you blaze be the light by which others find their way. That is how purpose multiplies. That is how meaning becomes legacy. And that, my friend, is how a single life becomes a timeless force. And what is a timeless force if not a soul ablaze with intention? One who has tasted the bitter wine of doubt, the chill of isolation, the ache of failure, and yet rises again, not out of ego, but out of allegiance to something greater than self. That kind of life does not end when the body does. It echoes. It reverberates through hearts, through generations, through the hidden corners of history where quiet courage becomes immortal. You must understand, when you choose to live this way, you become dangerous, not to society, but to the systems that feed on apathy. You threaten the ordinary because you insist on living the extraordinary within it. You pierce through illusion with the sword of purpose, and the world cannot help but notice. That is why those who walk this path will always face resistance. But it is a sacred resistance, for it sharpens you, it sculpts you, it prepares you for the influence you are destined to have. You are not here to merely exist. You are here to impact. Your words, your silence, your actions, your sacrifices, These are not wasted when they come from purpose. Every conversation becomes an opportunity. Every task becomes a reflection of your philosophy. Every failure becomes a lesson in alignment. Think of the great minds and great hearts who lived this truth. Helen Keller, deaf and blind, chose meaning over misery and inspired millions. Mahatma Gandhi, frail in body but unshakable in principle, bent empires with nothing but quiet defiance and the resolve to live from truth. These were not gods. They were humans who chose to make their lives an answer to the question that burned within them. You can do the same. You must do the same. For if not you, who? And if not now, when? Do not wait for the stars to align or the crowd to cheer. Begin with what you have, where you are. Begin while your hands tremble and your voice shakes. Begin when the world says you are not ready. Because the truth is, you were ready the moment the question entered your soul. That question is your calling card from eternity. So write it on your wall, etch it into your morning ritual, whisper it over your dreams before sleep takes you, and most of all, let your life be the answer that cannot be ignored. This is how revolutions begin, not in the streets, but in the soul, not through force, but through alignment, not with the roar of rebellion, but with the whisper of unwavering purpose. And when you have lived this way long enough, you will notice something astonishing. The world begins to bend, not to your will, but to your way. Opportunities arise not because you chased them, but because they were drawn to your gravity. People listen not because you speak loudly, but because you speak from depth. You become without title or permission a lighthouse, standing still, standing strong, shining on. And those lost in the fog will come to you. They will come not because you have answers, but because your life is the answer. So live it boldly and quietly, fiercely and humbly, as a warrior of wisdom, as a servant of meaning, as a steward of the question that makes all the difference. That is the legacy of the greatest minds. That is the calling of the awakened soul. And that, my friend, is the life you were born to live. So carry on, not with haste, but with holy intent. Carry on with the knowledge that every small act of integrity is a thread in the tapestry of eternity. That every moment you refuse to compromise your values, even when it would be easier to fold, is a declaration to the universe that you are aligned with something greater than comfort. There will be trials. Oh, yes, they will come. Not because life is cruel, but because life is precise. It will test you, not to break you, but to reveal you. The gold is revealed in the fire. The strength of a tree is proven in the storm. So when adversity comes, meet it not with fear, but with faith. Faith that your question still burns and your answer still matters. Look around you. The world is full of activity, but empty of purpose. It is loud with opinions, but quiet with wisdom. It is overflowing with connections, yet starving for meaning. This is your opportunity to bring clarity where there is confusion, to bring depth where there is noise, to bring soul where there is surface. But you must begin with yourself. Read the great works not just to consume knowledge, but to commune with truth. Reflect, not just to analyze your life, but to align it. Serve not just for duty, but because service is the echo of purpose made real. And speak not to be heard, but to elevate the hearts of others toward their own inner light. You are not walking this road alone. The minds of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, of Lao Tzu and Rumi, of Viktor Frankl and Emerson walk beside you. They may be gone from this world, but their words remain alive because they were forged in meaning. Their truths still pulse because they came not from intellect alone, but from the soul. Join them. Become one of them in spirit, not by mimicry, but by mastery. Mastery of your own thoughts, your own decisions, your own sacred fire. And when the day comes, and it surely will, when your steps slow and the finish line of life draws near, you will not be afraid. You will not regret, because you will know deep in your bones that you lived. You did not wait for permission. You did not bow to mediocrity. You did not squander your gifts in the shallow pools of distraction. You drank deeply of truth. You lived the question. You became the answer. And as your final breath meets the silence of the stars, may your legacy echo in the hearts of all who still seek, guiding them, inspiring them, igniting in them the same question you once asked: what does it mean to live a life that truly matters? Let your life be the most powerful reply. And so it shall be. And so it shall be, not because fate willed it, but because you did. You who chose to rise when others slept. You who chose to reflect when others rushed. You who chose to walk the road of meaning when the world beckoned you toward mediocrity. Let it be written in the scroll of time that here walked a soul undivided, that here lived a man or a woman who refused to let the dust of the ordinary settle on the shoulders of their greatness. And now, look not behind you, but ahead. For your greatest works may still be unwritten. Your highest mountains may still await your climb. Your deepest contributions may yet lie dormant, waiting only for the full flame of your devotion to awaken them. Do not wait to feel ready. The ancient ones did not wait. They acted from the strength that comes not from certainty, but from commitment. They carved their lives into the stone of eternity, not with brilliance, but with belief. Belief that they were here for more than survival, more than profit, more than applause. They were here to embody meaning. And so are you. Embody it in how you listen. Embody it in how you create. Embody it in how you rise after each fall. Do not measure your life by the milestones others expect of you. Measure it by the fire within. Are you living your question? Are you advancing the answer through action, through struggle, through sacrifice? If so, then you are on the right path. You are already a master, maybe not in the eyes of men, but in the eyes of time. And time, my friend, is the only judge that matters. So when the world tempts you to trade your authenticity for approval, say no. When it offers you comfort in place of courage, decline. When it mocks your depth, smile, for the shallow will always fear the deep. And then go deeper still. Find the next layer of your truth. Cut away the distractions. Let silence be your cathedral. Let stillness be your teacher. Let your question continue to evolve, even as your answer grows more radiant, more unshakable, more true. And when you walk through the crowd, let them feel it, not your ego, but your essence. Let them see in your eyes a calm that cannot be purchased, a purpose that cannot be shaken, a light that does not flicker. That light is your legacy. It will outlast titles, outshine wealth, outlive even your name. So guard it, feed it, walk with it. And above all, share it not by preaching, but by presence, not by convincing, but by being, for nothing inspires more deeply than a life fully lived. Let that be your gift to the world. Not more noise, not more achievement, but more meaning. The kind of meaning that comes not from ancient texts or modern trends, but from a soul unafraid to ask, to seek, to suffer, and to rise again and again until life itself becomes the answer.